Hey, thanks for tuning in to Grackle and the Goose. I'm the Grackle.
And I'm the Goose.
And I hope you enjoy our podcast where we share our journey of going to every state park in the U.S., which is ambitious, we know.
Ooh, you know what sounds we should do for our intro?
Sure, go ahead, right in the middle.
Sorry.
Fine, tell me what you're thinking.
We gotta make a grackle and then a goose noise. Right at the beginning.
Those are two very ugly sounding birds, just so you know.
Nobody would forget us.
Nobody. They'd be like, what the hell is that? And my radio just broke. No one listens to radio. Okay, we would like to share some of what we learned about the parks that we visit, and I hope listening to our misadventures encourages everyone to try connecting with nature and try out camping. A few things I want to get out of the way. Mm-hmm. Liability stuff. This is an entertainment podcast. Don't quote us in a professional academic paper.
You're just here for the shits and gigs.
We try to give accurate information, but I'm pulling from the internet. Could be dated, incorrect. We're going to say things wrong because we can barely get through regular everyday English, so you can imagine that historical English and words of non-English language are going to be problems.
For sure.
If you hear an error, please reach out with kindness, and we could try to make amends. We're not trying to be jerks. We're just still learning. Also, you probably picked up on this. We're adults. And I've tried for many years, but the cussing thing has never been, zero. So, viewer discretion, which I think we already cussed before this happened, there could be swear words.
We can cut it out.
No one ever cussed it out. So anyway, let's get going. So for this one, I went and did a little digging on a park that we visited, which was Providence Canyon State Park. It's in Georgia. I'd say you should definitely go to this one. It is a bit, how do you say it? Strenuous. It's parts of it are tough.
If you have kids, just expect to carry them back. So definitely don't hike out so far that you're too tired to probably carry your kid back.
Yeah, but you can still see some pretty good sights without having to go down into the canyons, and which means walking up out of the canyons. So it's always, more about how you get back than how you're getting where you're going.
I also wish we had water shoes instead. There was a lot of walking through the streams.
Yeah, I didn't really expect the trail to be that wet.
I mean, I still had a good time, but yeah, definitely water shoes.
I kind of liked that because it put really cool water on your feet, which kind of cools you down.
Yeah.
So what I wanted to do is, like I said, I pulled into some history, did a little bit of diving. A couple of Georgia parks have done this where I thought, oh, that's a cute thing. It's just what it says on the info sign. And then I learned more, and I was like,
it's terrible.
Who wrote this? It skipped out the entire backstory. So I thought I'd share it because Goose has not heard any of this.
Mm-mm.
So, and I thought it was pretty crazy. So here we go.
I do remember it swallowed half the town.
It did swallow half the town.
So
Spoilers. No, I'm just kidding. You're fine. It's not really a spoiler. That's happened a long time ago. It should not be a surprise. All right. So you may have heard of the Little Grand Canyon, air quotes. That's in Georgia, like I said, Providence Canyon State Park. And it's considered to be one of Georgia's 7 natural wonders.
What are the other 6?
That's not part of this? Thanks for hitting me right in the beginning.
Glossy.
Trying to pretend to be a professional, and you're like, oh, do you not know everything?
Fail.
All right, moving on. It's a beautiful place to hike. Like we said, be prepared because it's a real hike with inclines, and you'll see signs posted in red reminding you not to climb the canyon, stay where you're supposed to, a little bit of a...
It actually said it was illegal to leave the trail.
It's illegal to climb canyons, yeah. Which makes sense once you realize, how fast these things can, sweep away and, fall and crush you, and it's, And also, don't damage the park so that people get to go see it. So anyway, definitely recommend going. All right, so here we go. The first list of natural wonders was made by a librarian, Ellen May Thornton, and that was published December 26th, day after Christmas, but in 1926. And
so she basically just got to pick things she thought was cool. She's like, this is it.
That's the power of a librarian. People think, you just sit in a room with books, but they are very educated, very research focused, and a great resource actually. Shout out to local librarians. Definitely hang out with them. So they published it in the Atlanta Georgian magazine, and she said that some items on her list were arguable. There are other places of equal rank. So, what she thought was beautiful, but there's a ton of beauty in Georgia. Ton of weird driving in Georgia. Don't worry about that, though. I couldn't find the original article that she posted, but Providence Canyon does generally show up on the lists as one of the 7 natural wonders of the state. It's pretty much it's in most of them. So,
does that weird column thing make the list?
The one I told you about? Down.
The one that has how to restart the world in several languages. I showed it to you.
You did show that to me, yeah. I don't remember
I
that.
think it does make the list, if I remember correctly.
Well, these are 7 natural wonders.
Oh, natural. Yeah, never mind.
So the 7 natural wonders of Georgia, this I'm reading from the New Georgia Encyclopedia.
Mm-hmm.
The 7 natural wonders of Georgia are the most physically spectacular or unusual sights in the state. These landscape formations resulted from powerful forces of nature during geologic time, probably more than 60 million years ago, and with the exception of Providence Canyon, predate human activity in Georgia. That's the end of the paragraph. Now here's the thing. Why would you say predate human activity? Providence Canyon cannot predate human activity because it was caused by humans.
What?
It's not really natural. I mean, like, it's erosion. Erosion's like powerful nature mechanic, but yeah,
mechanic.
It's completely caused by people.
Dang, I did not know that.
What makes you wonder? How do you call that a natural wonder? So
Naturally
everything else
failed.
is like 60 million years ago, beauty of the earth, and then we screwed it up.
I don't remember reading that when we were out there.
Oh yeah, you didn't notice that they didn't broadcast that no.
They're just like, be safe. It swallowed half a town. Have a good time, guys.
Be safe. Okay, so let's get into that. So, Providence Canyon is in Stewart County. Stewart County was created in 1830. The land originally belonged to Creek Indians. I don't know if it's Native Americans or Indians, so I'm just going to say Creek Indians to keep everything cohesive. Because if you go to look it up, they're called the Creek Indians. So the land originally belonged to Creek Indians until the 1820s, and they ceded the land to the United States. And that by the way, wasn't a peaceful thing.
Usually never is.
Yeah, they're just like, yeah, they ceded it. And
So it's like that.
And there's a treaty, and that was not simple.
It's like the new history books they teach in school, where they're like, yeah, we just asked the Indians to leave, and they were totally cool with it.
Moving on. Do more math, kids. The treaty didn't smooth things out, as you can imagine. In 1832, the rolling hills are developed into farms, and it's called the Humber community. There's a trading post, post office, an academy to educate the kids, doctor's office, and an active congregation at the original Providence Methodist Church, which was built in 1832. Original foreshadowing.
Okay. Wait, is that all the stuff that gets followed up?
Is it? So in 1836... The remaining Creek Indians ambushed communities, though I don't know if Humber was one of those.
Yeah, get it back.
No, what? You know that's not how it worked out.
Would have been nice.
And on May 15th, 1836, Roanoke, which is a river settlement, was burned by a reported 300 Indians. Settlers...
Roanoke. I thought that was the one
There's a lot of Roanokes, okay?
Oh, okay. I was like, wait a minute.
No, we didn't crack, like, the first colony of the U.S. That name's out there a lot. Let's not get too far out of our sphere. Settlers had called on the governor for help. He'd sent militia volunteers to establish some forts. There's a battle of the Shepherd's Plantation, and this ends the skirmishes in the county and pretty much the state. So this is sort of like, now it's fizzling out. From 1836 to 1850, the population booms, and Stewart is one of Georgia's top 3 cotton producers. And not like small numbers, right? We're talking more than 7.6 million pounds of cotton in 1850.
So they overfarmed the lands and they collapsed.
Yeah, that's commonality. That comes up a lot. So anyway, that's what causes the decline. You took my thunder. It's over farming, but not just over farming. It's a oh my god. But it's over farming, but also the type of farming practices. But there's always a fun story.
I really thought you were going to say that they were mining, and that's what caused the collapse. Yeah, because, it swallowed the town, yeah? So, I mean, something had to be empty underneath.
Yeah.
For it to collapse through. Are we getting to that?
We'll get to some of that. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I've only taken one studies class, soil studies class, but we'll get to that. All right, so a little bit of local lore, what someone like the tourists' guides would tell people way back in the day, is that the canyon was started by a drip coming off of a barn roof.
It's a hell of a drip!
Yeah, anyway, it started with clearing trees from sections of the county. Many farmers did clean-tilled monocrops. That's when you grow one type of crop and it's growing the crops in rows with uncovered soil in between. Leaves the soil open to the elements. So elements is like rain, but also think of like wind and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Early farmers tended to plow up and down the slopes and used shallow one-horse plows. going up the mountain, down the mountain, not around the side.
Oh, so it was just making the topsoil real loose.
It magnifies the erosion because the soil is open to the weather. The shallow plowing doesn't encourage the water to travel into the subsoil.
Because the subsoil is so hard.
And plowing up and down the hill helps water run off the ditches, gullies, and take the soil along with it for a ride. So it's really not a great combo for this. This was quick, by the way. Within 20 years, the canyon is well underway to forming. So, like, this isn't like...
Didn't the Grand Canyon take, like, thousands of years?
Yeah, it did.
Oh, jeez.
This took, like, 20.
Like, you want to see a trick?
You might notice it's younger than the other 16 million year natural wonders. So anyway, one note here is that we keep calling the park Canyon, and Canyon sounds good. It sounds like the Grand Canyon, which is intentional. These are really just gullies. So a gully is a ravine formed by the action of water.
Yeah.
And I do want to point out that Providence Canyon was sometimes upheld as a sort of poster child for Southern agriculture's lack of conservation practices.
You're like, look at what you did!
Yeah, it's exactly that. It's exactly that on a national level. But just so you know, like, there is evidence of some farmers who knew these weren't the best practices, and they were doing terracing. Is that right? I think I said that right. Where they do, like, terracing or contour farming instead of going upslope and downslope.
What's terracing?
So, like, a terrace is, like, you ever see, like, the gardens that are in, like, flat layers? Like steps?
Yeah.
That's, like, terrace.
Okay.
Alright, but in this time, it was not uncommon for settlers to farm until they exhausted the soil and then move on without planting cover crops or doing extra things to protect the soil that's left, which is sort of the history of some of the agricultural South. And you might be thinking, hey, these canyons are hundreds of feet deep and acres of land in size. How do you get that much soil to run off? Like, that's a lot. I don't want to say dirt, but that's a lot of dirt. So why isn't the entire southeast full of these massive gullies? So, without getting too deep into science and making it dense or boring, there's a second factor at play, and it's, like you said, the type of soil. It's not that the water wasn't, like, getting in, but also the soil type really doesn't help. So, it's shaped like a lens-shaped deposits. Like, think of like a eyeglass lens, that kind of rounded shape.
Like a contact.
Yeah.
Okay.
A lens. They're lens-shaped deposits of kaolin. I want to say kaolin, but I'm pretty sure it's kaolin. Kaolin is like a white clay-type material. Sometimes it's called china clay because it's used to make china porcelain. You could also use it to make glossy paper like in magazines, organic plastics. Even some cosmetics have it, among other things. So it gets used in a bunch of stuff. When water gets to the kaolin, it moves downhill sideways. It's called pipe flow. The action is called pipe flow. And pipe flow destabilizes sand and causes large amounts of sediment to collapse. The erosion is how Providence Canyon got national attention, but we'll get into more on that in a second. So, we're back in 1859. They had to relocate that church. The canyons had already formed, and the land the church is on is eaten by Canyon 2, which you can actually go see.
So, Church 1 is destroyed. They didn't...
Original church.
Okay, so it wasn't like they're like, we're going to move the church and, like, grab the pews and left.
They're like, we are about to lose the church, grab the pews. No, I don't know if they did that. Time to...
Not the pews.
Like, well, this investment's not going to work, and we don't move houses yet, so new church time. I don't remember if we went to the second canyon or not. Did we go to number 8? We went to 8 and 2?
Did we make it to 8?
If you can go see more of the canyons, definitely do, because there's, like, abandoned, like, cars and, like, stuff that just they couldn't move
pretty.
out.
It is a lot of walking, though, to get between all the gullies. Yeah. Well, I wasn't expecting how, like, far away. Well, I mean, when you think about it now, like, it was tons of acres of farming that caused it, but, like, in the moment we showed up, I was like, bro, this is way bigger than what I signed up for.
And we were carrying a kid in water and a little out of shape. So if you can...
A lot of water. Or bring a lot of water if you go.
If you can do more of them, though, you can definitely see, like I said, abandoned cars and stuff that they just weren't able to safely remove. There's, like, all that kind of stuff.
But I want to go back. It'd be cool to see the abandoned cars. I kind of wonder if you could sit in them, take pictures. I bet they're kind of far off the path, aren't they?
We don't know. We never made it out there.
We'll go back.
If someone else has cool pictures, though. Okay, so like I said, the land the church is on is eaten by Canyon number 2. The church cemetery also gets lost to the canyon cave-ins.
Ooh.
I didn't figure out if, like, anybody ever, like, recovered people Or they were like, this isn't good.
So like it rains, right? And then you go back out on this hike, it's just like skull.
I'm pretty sure that doesn't happen. Because someone would have like screamed and they would have said, uh-oh. But then again, I didn't think this whole story would not be told, so.
Definitely wouldn't take it home, though. That's just inviting problems.
You won't take it home because you're not supposed to take stuff. Leave no trace.
Yeah, that's what I said. But take it home and cause problems.
No, take only memories. Oh my god, you're a menace to the Memphis society. Typical Goose. Alright, so the church cemetery also gets lost. The church cemetery also gets lost to the canyon cave-ins, right?
Lost or misplaced?
No, it was placed, and then that place moved. So I don't know what the word is for that because misplaced sounds lost. It's more like place leaving.
No, we know exactly where it is. In this area somewhere.
It's somewhere. The trading post and the post office have to be moved. The Walker Low House, built sometime between 1827 and 1840, they don't have an exact. One source says that was built not long after 1825.
If they just waited long enough, it would have moved itself.
I think it's a question of usability. Alright, so in 1859, they moved the church, right? And then there's the Walker Low people. Between 1827, 1840, probably closer to 1825, so a little bit before that, they had a house there. But the house wasn't swallowed. It was lost to fire.
Wow.
Yeah, but the reason I bring it up is because artifacts from where the house had been have been found in the area where it used to stand. So, if you want to check this out, if you go near the Canyon Loop Trail, behind the remains, not the dead people, behind the remains of the structure.
I was like, I thought you said they didn't find that.
So anyway, behind the remains of the structure are pieces of headstones and footstones that mark the grave of David Walker Low and his wife, Jane Dorsey Low.
Don't take those home.
So, don't take those. PSA.
It's like Kolomoko all over again.
New. We should actually... I don't want to see you have to go back to every park we visited, but definitely we should.
I don't want to go back to Kolomoko. I'm okay.
You sure?
The vibes were wrong.
Because Kolomoko was the first part that I tried to do a podcast for. That went off the rails.
By raccoons.
That's true. It could be haunted, but the raccoons are real.
The raccoons were haunted.
Disney lied. It's not like Pocahontas' best friend. He just wants your ham sandwiches.
It's going to steal the lid to your cooler.
Alright, so David Walker Low, Jane Dorsey Low, you could still see pieces of the headstones and footstones that mark the grave. Like I said, if you're on Canyon Loop Trail. David Low actually donated 2 acres of the land for the church and the schoolhouse. So, here you go.
Is it still usable?
No, it got sold by a canyon. Where have you... You know the outcome! It's 2022!
No, because their house stuff is still there. Maybe it was the acres a little farther back.
The pieces of it are there, not it. Okay, so they donated 2 acres for a church and for the schoolhouse. So the church was called Providence Unity Methodist Church, and then the school was Providence Academy, and eventually the cannons get called Providence. Haha, neat.
Yeah, I just want to continue that bad luck.
Bad? Alright. So cotton production peaks around the 1890s. There's a lot of history to this. I didn't get into this because I can't do it justice. But you could probably guess what some of that cotton history peaking and stuff is about the 1890s about. It declines a lot, quite a bit, after 1910. This doesn't matter to the gullies, of course, because the gullies continue to grow. So
they weren't like, hey man, this stream is starting to become a little bit of a problem.
There's a lot of money in cotton. You gotta get those £1 million. Also, I figure it's in motion, how do you stop the earth from leaving?
The earth from leaving. It's just going. It's out of here.
You made this great ditch, and then I'm just gonna, slip and slide on out of here. Quote the earth.
Slip and slide out of here. Throw some mayonnaise down, we're done.
Throw some What?
Yeah, you haven't heard that? When you do the slip and slides, if you add mayonnaise, it's gross. But if you add mayonnaise, you slide better. Yeah, I don't think it's rubber. I think it counts plastic.
I just can't figure out why someone thought mayonnaise was the answer.
I don't know. White people.
Okay.
Cut that out. Continue.
I just can't imagine, I got all this mayo, but I didn't make as much potato salad as I thought.
People
put that on a slip and slide.
You didn't see, what was it, Big Ed, where you, like, put a bunch of it in his hair?
I heard of people putting it in their hair. I've never been like... Okay, the Earth didn't do a mayo slide, just so no one's confused.
But it could.
No. I don't know when mayo was invented. Don't look that up. Okay, so... Alright, yeah, so cotton peaks around the 1890s, declines a lot in 1910. The gullies are already in motion. They don't care. They continue to grow. In the 1930s, with agriculture in decline, there are efforts to make the gullies into a park, and they actually wanted to be a national park.
They're like, hey, let's put our problems on display ahead of time.
It's a national park. It's a national wonder. So they're trying to go from agriculture to tourism.
A little late in the game.
So you kind of know the part where it's like, this is a lot of erosion, and this is definitely what not to do. So here comes the PR campaign. So the Butler Herald reprints, I don't know what their agreement was, but they had the article. The Butler Herald has the article from the Columbus Inquirer. And if you want to see it for yourself, I'll tell you, it's the issue dated June 29th, 1939, volume 36, number 35. And you can see it for free. The article...
Just type the URL.
Yeah, I will, but like, this is vocal, so I'm not going to be like, www.https:// I can put it in the show notes.
So like, go up to the top, www.
World Wide Web.
So you gotta do that, what is the 2 dots, not semicolon. The other one.
You get blocked because it's misdirected to like a misspelled site for porn.
HTTP.
Yeah, I'll drop it in the show notes if anyone's like, curious to see it for themselves and wants to, I don't know, see, you could see an old newspaper. Like, super riveting stuff, that's what we're about. So anyway,
all about it.
The article is titled Providence's Caves in Stewart County, but the Enquirer quickly brags about bestowing the name Little Georgia's Canyon on this park. And then they talk about leaving out the little. So it's compared to how beautiful the Grand Canyon is, and they try to tamp down the erosion bit by talking about it being a phenomenon. So yes, that's the thing. They're sort of like, we'll make it sound, we want to be a national park, we'll make it sound like a national park. Georgia's little Grand Canyon, ha ha ha. And then they dropped a little and like, Georgia has a Grand Canyon.
That we made
That's
ourselves.
Cool. And there is positives, like, they said like, quote, no sunset ever had more colors, end quote, because it is beautiful with the layering of the soils in different colors.
Now I want to go on sunset. Can you camp there?
At Providence Canyon? We can. They have a few spots. I get to it later, but that's, I think it's more... They don't call it primitive camping in Georgia. I think they call it pioneer camping.
Yeah.
And since we had kiddo and you hadn't really been camping with me before, I thought electric and water were going to be kind of important. So I didn't... We stayed at Colomoko.
Yeah, that thing that you dragged me into.
It's great. I think it's fun. So even though the human role of it is sort of like hush-hush and it's alluded to being a natural wonder, this campaign of sorts does not convince the National Park Service or Congress. They're like, no. It kind of makes sense, right?
We're not going to reward your fuck-ups.
Yeah, so the national parks are protecting natural beauty and scenic displays and stuff, and they're like you said, you destroyed the land. I don't know if that's national material. Okay, so doesn't get them marks with the National Park Service and Congress, but it does, however, get noticed by the Resettlement Administration, which later is known as the Farm Security Administration, or FSA. This is a PR problem. Getting noticed by the Resettlement Administration is not the best. And here's why. Well, the Dust Bowl photos. Have you ever seen those? They're kind of famous.
Mm-hmm.
The same guy, Arthur Rothstein, takes photos of Providence Canyon and other gullies, and he titles these photos Erosion, Stewart County, Georgia.
He said, you'll have nothing and you will like it.
So, it's not going great. You could see one of these photos in Vanishing Georgia Archives in the University System of Georgia. I can pop a link. But in 1935, there's congressional testimony by the head of the Soil Conservation Service, Hugh Hammond Bennett, who talks about how so many acres of cultivated land has been reduced to largely worthless gullied land. He specifically points out Providence Cave, because that's what it was called when it wasn't being prettied, Providence Cave, as one of the largest examples of this. Bennett is really focused on publicizing soil erosion and leaves a legacy of books and papers and other big contributions to the field of soil conservation. So this is on blast, and he's passionate about it. The New Deal is also swirling around at the time where conservation and environmentalism are a big focus. Part of the New Deal was the creation of the Civilian Conservation Corps, known as the CCC. And you've probably seen references to the Corps in other state parks where you can visit and their work still stands. Mm-hmm. Definitely have seen that in parks in Florida. In the 1930s and 40s, the Civilian Conservation Corps planted, I forgot, pines.
So when was the first time everything swept away?
Back in the 1800s.
So what
1850s and stuff is when they were losing the church.
So it's about 100 years later now from when it first happened. Okay.
Right. So 100 years later, they had the New Deal, which is the Civilian Conservation Corps. And in the 1930s, they get the Corps to plant pines and kudzu. If you live in the area where there is kudzu, you know that this is a flop. They planted pines and kudzu at Providence Canyon and throughout the southeast. Now, here's how it works. So the roots of the pine trees really do slow erosion, and that's beneficial. Kudzu, however, strangles the pine trees, and when the pine trees fall over and die, it actually accelerates erosion.
Oh, gosh.
Kudzu is an issue to this day. You've probably seen people on TikTok who have cows or sometimes cows with goats and stuff try to control it because it grows like crazy. So, like I said, 1930s, they plant the pines, plant the kudzu, don't realize the oopsie that happened, and then there's a little event, you've probably heard of it. It's a little thing in history, it's called World War II. That comes around and Stewart County falls out of the limelight. So we're about the war, and we're not into this big conservation thing as much. Alright, political changes keep coming. So I don't want to trivialize it, but I'm not good at history details, so we're just going to skip ahead a little bit. So, World War II, it was serious.
We're going to gloss over.
A lot of events happened. Also serious, not to be goofy, but skipping that. It's 1971 now. The locals get the state to make Providence Canyon a state park, which is where we went. It's really beautiful, worth a visit, like we've been saying.
Oh, so they made a state park, not a national, like they wanted.
Right.
Okay.
Because, can you be a national park if you're not...
If you're highlighting all the things you did wrong.
Yeah, I mean, there are some, other national park units and stuff, but, if you're going to be a beautiful, scenic national park, you can't be...
the definition of soil erosion.
The definition of being bad. So that's the story. So, it's a park now. The trails into the canyon are steep but maintained, and the sights are great. At the bottom of the canyon, there's a stream we talked about to walk through, and it cools your feet. Just know that it is wet. The visitor center has cold drinks, snacks, nice souvenirs.
The souvenirs are really nice.
Yeah, I think that's where we got...
That's where we got the scratch off.
The scratch off, which we need to do. It's a picture of all the parks, and as you see them, you can scratch them off and see
Georgia.
Georgia, parks and historic sites, yeah. Mm-hmm. There is wildlife. We went there at the time where wildlife is not active.
They do have signs for snakes. Yeah, it was snakes, wasn't it?
They have, fun to see wildlife. Sometimes snakes are fun, but...
I thought you were talking about, the danger zone.
Yeah, try to be a little upbeat. Wildlife that's fun to see in the wild.
Snakes happen, but there's cooler stuff.
Snakes are cool. I like to not see them by my feet, but snakes are cool. Okay, so probably the most notable sight is seeing the soil horizons. That's just a name for the distinct soil layers that you see horizontal. They vary in color. It is really beautiful. And when you stand next to it, it's bigger than you think it is. It really is.
Not as tall as I thought it was going to be, but I was thinking the Georgia Gorge.
Which is gorge really big?
The gorge was huge.
Oh. Alright. There's a $5 parking fee when we went, and if you want to stay the night, the park has 3 pioneer campsites, which are no electricity, no water, and they also have 6 backcountry sites. Kind of the same thing. You gotta bring what you need. We traveled with the babies, so unfortunately we couldn't stay overnight without those amenities. We camped at Colomoko Mountain State Park. Make sure you call ahead for how to make reservations. Don't blame us if they're closed. No Karens in the community, please.
No Karens in the community. This is an anti-Karen
If I can dream big,
we don't care.
Double check your stuff. If you like canyons, the Georgia Department of Natural Resources has the Canyon Climber Club. Membership is $20 and covers the cost of the t-shirt. The challenge is to visit Mayanacola Falls. I had to spell that phonetically, so hopefully I got it right.
I want to go back and do that too. I didn't know that was a thing.
Yeah, well, you could just spend the money and get the shirt. But when you go, wear the shirt and you could do their PR thing. So it's Mayanacola Falls. They should make me say that twice. Cloud Lake Canyon, Providence Canyon, and Tallulah Gorge. So that's the one you're talking about. Tallulah Gorge, yeah. Now, fun fact, the erosion continues. Heavy rains have moved as much as 6 feet of the canyon floor in one night.
Where does it go?
Somewhere else.
Anywhere but there.
Not where we want it to be, if history has taught me anything. Also, the canyon, let me slow down, continues to widen by 6 feet a year.
Widen or deepen?
Widen. So it's still growing.
I wonder how much it deepens every year, though.
Well, on some nights, when it rains enough, 6 feet.
It deepens by 6 feet also?
Well, I thought that's what it was, but now that you've questioned me in this way, I feel a little bit less confident. Yeah, so as much as 6 feet of the canyon floor in one night. But I don't know.
Oh, okay, I see what you're saying.
I think that's moving the floor out and not covering the floor with the walls. I think. This would
really
be a good question to ask
the next Grand Canyon.
Well, that's what they said. Eventually the road to the main entrance will collapse and they'll have to relocate the facilities. You know where we checked in and everything.
Yeah.
Alrighty, so what do you think of Providence Canyon? The great sort of lie.
The great sort of lie. Look at our amazing fuck up. Isn't it beautiful?
It's a natural wonder. It's interesting to me how
I wonder how stupid we are.
It's interesting to me sometimes how stuff way in our past still stays sticky and stays around to like current times. You know? So like there's that PR campaign to pretend it's the natural Grand Canyon, and here it is today called the Little Grand Canyon. Still here.
It's interesting though how, history repeats itself also, because it's talking about how they're going to have to relocate here soon anyway. They're pretty much like Church Part 3.
Yeah, well, I don't know how you would influence that to make it stop happening.
Gotta grow more Kudzu.
No. Because that kills the plants you need.
It was really woodsy when we went, but it was more like natural woodsy. It definitely wasn't, a lot of those scraggly trees, I don't know what they were, but I know they were in my face a lot, so.
They were in my face a lot, yeah. They were like maintained trails, though. You're just kind of tall. No shame, but like, it's not like you're bushwhacking when you go. It's a maintained trail that you can definitely see and you can definitely walk on. If you're taller, though, you're going to be ducking a lot. If you're into the gullies. You will see people trying to climb stuff. I was so surprised when we walked back into that one canyon. People were like halfway up the wall. I was like, wow, that's a bad idea if I ever saw one. You're not supposed to do that, yeah. So I'm definitely leaning towards, don't carve your initial in trees. Yeah. Try to keep stuff nice so that we all can see it again. And I guess because you want to keep going back to these same parks. There was one park that also had a pet program. So it's like the Canyons thing. Well, actually, there's a lot of dogs at the canyon. Okay, so Georgia has a couple of programs, the Canyon Climbers we just mentioned, but they also have Tails on Trails Dog Walking Club, and with that one, you get a shirt and a bandana, and you can order an extra bandana, and you can go out with your dog, and then different trails and stuff like that. What if North Carolina does something similar? That'd be pretty cool. I definitely want to do the trails in Arizona, though. Have you seen those? There's one with like a bunch of like really colorful rocks. I know that's vague as hell. Grackle Goose Pack in Arizona. Send us some pics. Because I have no idea what she's talking about. To answer your question, North Carolina does have a 100-mile challenge. You don't have to be a resident, but the miles have to be in North Carolina. And if you want to do that with us, the Grackle Goose Pack is in the process of being registered as a group. That's like a fitness thing, sort of. You don't have to do it at state parks, but like I said, you have to do the miles in North Carolina. But yeah, so there you go. I couldn't believe it. I thought it'd be a little blurb where it's like, ha ha ha, isn't it cute? This is the canyons. And then I got into it and I was like, oh. This is horrendous. I was like, oh, looky there. All right. Well, thank you for joining Grackle and the Goose. Please feel free to reach out to us and let us know what park you think we should visit. Tell us what your favorite is. We do mostly road trip in a very old SUV. But, maybe one day we'll fly out. So we don't have to spend a week driving to one park. So wherever it is, let us know which ones you think you should visit, what your favorites are, what makes your favorite your favorite. You can see that Providence Canyon is near and dear to us. We have a couple others that are just favorites of favorites. Oh, you found it? It's in Montana. What? It's in Montana. Wasn't even close. Okay. Next purchase is a map of the United States. It's Arizona and Montana. I thought it was in Arizona. I know they're completely different states. I thought it was in Arizona. They're on opposite sides. Yeah, so... so you're getting a map on your birthday. It's Lake McDonald in Glacier National Park, Montana. Well, all right. Again, we're Grackle and the Goose. You can follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and at grackleandthegoose.com. Thanks for joining us, and catch you later. Bye.
Tschüss.
Tschüss.